Now, where are you from originally?
Matitsi, Wyoming.
Where's that at exactly?
Just south of Cody, Wyoming.
Okay.
The northwest corner.
Yep.
Entrance to Yellowstone and all that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Matitsi's a little town of 300.
I like Wyoming, though, man.
Yeah.
So did you end up moving down just because of the rodeo space?
Yeah, so I grew up in Wyoming. We moved to Wickenburg, Arizona when I was a freshman in high school. A little bit of a story there, but just opportunity and, snowbirds had always been popular, like the ropers and stuff going south. And we had some friends that had been there in Wickenburg, and it was already a popular spot, but nothing compared to what it is now.
Now, Wickenburg is where there was a roping on the way up, right? Like a lot of guys were...
Yes, yeah. So there's Vegas Week, they call it now, that Rancho Rio puts on. That's a World Series. But there's... Any day of the week, there's at least 3 or 4 ropings going on anywhere in Wickenburg. I mean, you can rope 7 days a week.
So did you rope this week up there?
No, I didn't. I haven't. My dad's got a couple good head horses.
Yeah.
And I grew up team roping.
Yep.
But when I started focusing more on calf roping years ago, it's just really all I do.
Yeah.
Now if I jackpot team rope, it's just for fun, mostly with my dad, and
So
more time in the arena with him.
So so what moved you to Texas?
So after college, when I was in college at Cal Poly, which is Central Coast, California.
Yep.
I started spending the summers in Oklahoma. I met a calf horse trainer named Marty Miller, and he invited me out to his place. The only time I could go with college was the summers, which is the worst time of year.
So were you rodeoing in Cal Poly?
Yeah.
No way. I didn't know they even had a rodeo school there. That's crazy.
It's one of the best rodeo schools in the country.
I didn't know that.
Cal Poly is extremely hard to get in academically.
Yeah.
You have to have great grades, and usually rodeo and academics don't overlap a whole lot generally, but they've got an amazing team. And so I started going to Oklahoma and stuff in the summers, and then I did an internship my last summer with a construction company because I had to for college.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated, decided to rodeo. Just being a calf roper, you have to live in Texas, and specifically like Weatherford, Stephenville, Decatur area.
Dude, that area has gotten so crazy. So I grew up in, like I said, in Boyd, which, NRS, when I was growing up, was David's Western Wear in Decatur, right? Yep. And everything that I probably own on the western side came from David's. And I deer hunt maybe a quarter mile from where NRS is right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so it is insane to see the growth of what the industry has done for that area, man. It's like everybody it's like, oh, you got to move to Decatur. And we send my boy, so I've got a 12-year-old and we're trying to get him into roping. So I send him to Levi Cavness in Decatur every summer, and he spends the summer roping and stuff with him. So it's kind of become a mecca, man.
Yeah.
So
it is. And it's amazing how long, like it took me, I got there 2 years ago, so it took me 5-6 years to get out there.
Yeah.
It's just like anything in the industry, it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of money too. And if you don't have money, you got to be pretty creative with how you make things happen.
It was fun in Weatherford. I was wanting to go to school. I didn't ended up doing something different, but wanted to go to school, do horse vet stuff. So we were doing, I forget what the name of the place is, but there's a big horse vet in Weatherford that we were taking horses to and stuff. And I never will forget, he told me, he was like, look, if you're going to be horse vet, make sure you get the money up front. I'm like, he said, because sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But it was such a cool facility, and it was neat to learn about and see that area. But so I got to know before we get going, and I forgot the intro us here. We're on the Horizon. I'm here with Hunter Reaume here at NFR. We're doing a live broadcast here of our podcast. I've learned a lot about you from the Bedrock sponsorship, and so I want to know about the organization, the mentorship. We're going to go into that. I think that's super, super cool. But I heard that you're driving around Vegas with a mammoth in the back of your truck. How is that going for you?
Man, it's great. Just, I don't know, I get really into my partnersps, you know, and I'm super thankful to be a part of Bedrock, and I just saw these little mammoths everywhere, and I think, one, it's a great mascot for the brand. It just, I don't know, it just is great. And I saw these, and I'm like, because I was parking my truck at South Point up on the curb as part of the sponsorship, I was like, well, let me park my bed there because it's an Onyx, it's a Western hauler, and so I grabbed one of these the other day, and I was walking around Cowboy Christmas with it on my shoulder for like an hour and a half, and then I just ratchet strapped it to the back of my truck, and I had it in valet at Resorts World the other night, and people were just, every person I got out of the Uber, they were like, oh, it's so cool. They were taking a picture with it. And
Have you seen the big one out front?
Oh, yeah.
That's
you
all?
can hear it afterwards at night, too.
No way.
All night long, you can hear that sucker out there.
What I love is you got the full-size saddle on that thing, and it looks so small. We've got a gun scabbard on there in one of our rifle stocks, and it looks like a kid's toy. So we're laughing at we need to get somebody up there on that thing. For
What's its
parade.
name, too? Little Marge or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. But so
Something
yeah, well, it's
Marge.
funny because we've been asked a lot of times. People keep asking us what the name of these things are. Have you named the one in the back of your truck?
Bert.
Bert?
Bert.
Bert.
Yeah, like
I
Bert
love
and Ernie.
Love it. Well, tell me a little bit. So Scott was telling me a little bit about your kind of your mantras being faith, fitness, rodeo, which I think is awesome, man. So talk to me a little bit about what that means to you, and then your kind of mentor program. How do people get involved in it? So I guess let's start with how did you start that program and kind of your heart behind that?
Yeah, well, when I decided to rodeo 7 years ago, I graduated Cal Poly, one of the best schools in the nation with a degree in construction management. I had a guaranteed job waiting for me as a superintendent for a commercial company in Texas. And
so regardless, you were coming to Texas.
Yeah, in one way or another, yeah. But it was always around rodeo, right?
Yeah.
Texas was because I wanted to rope calves. And when I started out, I needed to learn a lot. I'm a first-generation roper. I didn't know anything about calf roping growing up. When I graduated and Marty had started helping me, and then C.R. Bradley, and then Tuff Cooper, and then Trevor Brazil and Roy Cooper, and just so many people poured into me, and I had to get over this bashfulness, too.
Well, not even so many people. I'm going to stop you there. Like, the best people.
Yeah, well.
It's like, that list you gave is kind of like, that's pretty high-end stuff there.
Well, and it's amazing how one relationship can build into another, and then the single biggest thing I learned was how you have to add value.
Yeah.
Like, why would those guys want to help me? They got tons of people that want help from them. And so I had to learn how to try to be of value to them in some way, even if it meant just staying out of their way. And
that's deep.
So, as I learned and as I got to apply this knowledge over the next 5 years, it all kind of culminated into the 2021 American, where I made the finals, made the run for 1.1 million, all that stuff. And that fall, I had made some friends through that year, and they live in Hawaii, the Mirandas, and they're on the Maui. And I was like, you know what, I want to do a clinic. And I reached out to them. I was like, what a better place to go than Hawaii, because those kids can't. It's hard for them to fly to a clinic because they can't take their horse, and it costs $5,000 to fly a horse.
So it's like roping and stuff in Hawaii, a big thing, like rodeo in Hawaii? Really?
Oh, yeah. The Paniolo, it's called the Paniolos, or the Hawaiian cowboy. And their culture, they'll say, runs deeper than like the Texas cowboy. Like, there was a Paniolo on Hawaii before there was ever a cowboy in Texas.
I have never heard that.
That might be a source of debate.
That's awesome. Paniolo, I like that.
Yeah. So I went there just thinking, like, again, I want to give back. I felt confident enough in my knowledge to actually go help people. And I'd already been doing lessons and stuff like that. But as far as the clinic goes, I went there and we had 25 people signed up in less than 12 hours, and which was way more than I probably had capacity for, but I didn't want to say no to anybody. And it went amazing. And then over the next 3 years, it kept growing. And this last year, I did there he is. That's Gabe, too. Gabe's from Kauai. I just did a clinic on Kauai.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's a good timing. You planted him, right?
Yeah. There he is. I see you.
That's awesome.
So
you're doing this
year?
clinic,
This year it grew into a tour over a spring break in Hawaii. I went to all 4 islands, 2 days on each island, back to back to back.
Oh, man.
Had 120 students.
I'm sure that was terrible travel, right?
Yeah. But it was people like Gabe and the Mirandas and all these people. What's so cool is the culture. Just when you go to help, like, they want to help you, and it's like a big family. And so I would accredit a lot of my desire to coach and it going so well in Hawaii. Then I was like, man, I need to be able to help these people more. And, like, I'm still working on building it out, and I'm one guy, and it takes a little while to build things. But then my first mantra was always success is in the journey, and that's from John Wooden, a famous basketball coach. And then Faith Fitness Rodeo actually came from my social media. The stuff I was posting, I was getting these comments and messages from people just saying, man, we love your faith and how you show it in fitness and rodeo. And so really my followers are the ones that kind of gave me the Faith Fitness Rodeo. And then I met a good friend of mine now, Nick Luciano. He's a big Western influencer. He's got a booth here. He's got one top following in the sport, you know. And he's the one that really helped me piece things together to go online. And so the Faith Fitness Rodeo Mastermind is what I launched this fall, and I've got 5 students. I limited it to 5 students for 8 weeks, and we just go into each pillar, faith being we all believe in God, so we talk about that, and also like sports psychology and mindset and competition. Yeah. And then fitness is just that, like fitness as a rodeo athlete, so catering it to be realistic for our lifestyle because we work so much any day, all day, every day anyway. And then rodeo is all the fundamentals, but also like competing and what it looks like to be a pro cowboy traveling and just like that. Just try to help mentor them into the space if they really want to be in it.
Well, there's several things I want to unpack here. So one, you said first generation calf roper. Mm-hmm. So how does one do that? Because it seems like that's been an interesting thing for me learning. Like, we grew up farming and ranching. We've had horses forever. I did small time, ranch rope stuff and whatever. And then I've got, somebody wants to be involved in it. We've got a family company involved in Circle Y. And I feel like it's so hard to get in without, like you're talking about, mentor programs or people who know what's doing. So how did you navigate that and then ultimately go compete at a college level? Like, so what did starting even look like?
I think it just boils down to tenacity, really.
Yeah, but did you just like pick up a rope one day and you're like, hey, I'm going to be a calf roper?
Yeah.
Like, how did that come about?
I was always, so growing up in Matitsi, it's a small school, 180 K through 12. We had like 5 people in each class.
That's awesome.
And so I played every sport there was. I played football, basketball, ran track, and then my parents got horses, and I was always into the horses and rodeo at a young age. Yeah. And then I quit rodeoing and just focused on basketball. And track went off the list real quick because who likes running like that anyway, right?
But especially in Wyoming, man, I can't imagine. Yeah. The wind.
Yeah. But it was just kind of, over time, I was always an athlete. I loved football and I loved basketball. And then rodeo was something I always did more in the spring. Yeah. And then over time, like basketball went away and it was football and rodeo. And I actually went to Cal Poly for school, but also to play football.
Oh, no way.
And then I got hurt and that kind of ended football. And so, like, the next thing really for me that was left was being an athlete, roping calves. And I'd already been, like I said, roping through middle school, high school.
So I got to ask that, though. What football injury did you have that then led you to calf roping, which looks to be like one of the most physical things you could do? So what did you injure in football that ended that career?
Yeah, so I didn't know it at the time, but I bulged the discs in my lower lumbar lifting. And that was right before spring ball. So like I'd been training all fall, all winter to get ready for spring because that's like I was trying to make the team at Poly actually, and so that was my time to make the team. When I got hurt, I didn't know what I did at the time, but I kept trying to play, and I wasn't the same athlete. I couldn't hit and run.
And it doesn't hurt riding horses?
No, it doesn't hurt riding. Honestly, I've had to. You have to take care of your back and hips because a lot of guys, calf ropers, have hip and back problems. Yeah. So it's still intense, but calf roping is not like getting off and running down the rope and flanking and tying is still a physical athletic movement, but it's not 60 minutes of it like you would in football. You know, it's not day in and day out like that. Like it's more, I've had more hip issues now than back issues.
So I have to assume then that, did you have your faith at that point in life? Mm-hmm. So talk to me about that a little bit and developing your faith and how you incorporate that in your mentor program. I'd like to know more about that.
It was actually when I got hurt and I remember that meeting with my position coach in college because I was playing slot back, which is like a triple option like accessory guy. So
very good athletes. Typically that's your
you have to be fast, be able to hit, be able to take pitch phase, all that stuff. And I remember having that meeting with my coach. And afterward, I did have this kind of sense of feeling like a peace almost from God, like, what, football's done.
That's awesome.
And college is when I started finding God more and more. One of my roommates, his name's Sammer, he's the one that really helped put it into perspective that faith, not religion, religion's man-made, whereas faith is your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Yep. And when he helped me understand that, it changed everything I thought and understood about belief in God and all that. And so
when you're incorporating that into this mentor, are these young athletes that already have faith? Are you bringing them to faith? Are you growing them in faith? Like how does that part of the mentor program work?
I would say for me, and my thing is I don't ever want to force anything on anybody. I just try to encourage them. Like pretty much everybody in that program though believes in God already. Yeah. And it's something, again, like I ask them point blank, hey, are you okay with talking about this? And everybody's cool. So then it just kind of happens naturally. Cool. And some of the members are very, very much already way further into that at 18 years old than I was.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because I just try to empower everybody to let their natural, who they are, come out and just build on that, right? But like if you're real timid, then we try to help bring more confidence. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if you have faith in Jesus, then you already have a confidence because you know you're a son of God, right? Yep. And it's more that mindset of like, if my identity is in Christ, then I don't have to worry about who I am, that's right? Awesome. And I think in today's world, especially, I'm 30, but I think in generations younger, identity crisis is a big problem.
And it's interesting you say that. My wife and I, we invest in an organization called Breakaway. So it's a big, it's a Bible study at a college level at A&M, and there's thousands of students go. We had a good meeting with him this last week talking about that, and he said, in his opinion, that's the number one issue with the up-and-coming generation is how to deal with, anxiety, not knowing who you are, and those kind of things. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because it seems to be a theme across the board, especially at that age group. So interesting.
Yeah, I look at the mastermind. It's important to grow as a rodeo athlete, but it's more important to grow as a person.
Yep.
And so if they love rodeo, great. Like, let's make that the vessel and the thing that you're working towards being really good at. But, like, I care more about who you are out of the arena than just being a champion in the arena.
So how did you select the individuals that are involved in the mentor program? And how does, somebody find out more information about that?
Yeah, so we ran just organic posting, right, on my social media, just letting people know, hey, I'm putting this out there. We're taking 5 people. They had to go through like a questionnaire, and then they had to do a one-on-one phone call with with the guy that helps me sell. His name's Yaden, and they had to do a one-on-one and just basically get screened into it and like, hey, here's what we're about. What are you about? What are you trying to get out of it? Is it a good fit?
That's
and
awesome.
If they were, then we offered them a spot into it.
So how many people did you have to screen through? I mean, you've got like 30,000 plus followers. I was just looking on your Instagram, so I got to imagine you had to screen through.
Not as many as you'd think, because it's funny when you set things up to naturally funnel people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You figure out real quick if people are serious about it or if they just want to get into. And there's a cost to it, right? Yeah. And so I was always limited by cost. We tried to not make that a factor if we thought they were a really good fit. But it was amazing. I mean, you go from hundreds down to 20 to 10 to 15. You know what I'm saying? And so we ended up having probably 15, 20 phone calls.
That's cool. So why did you pick 5? Like, what's the thought behind that?
One, it was my first iteration of this, and 2, I want it to be really intimate. Cool. I want it to be one-on-one feel, because I do one-on-one calls. You spend an hour on a phone call, 5 people. I mean, that's 5 hours. Man,
so this is like, it's cool hearing about this. This is like serious, real structured mentorship. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So and just that, to make sure I do run reviews for all of them. I do the one-on-ones. We do group calls. We check in, and I would always keep this, I think, between now and moving forward. Like, I'll keep it between 5 and 10 at most. Probably 8's going to be that sweet spot. But there's other options for larger communities, less cost. That's great. It's just I know what I want to provide, and I really like the small intimate groups.
So what level are the athletes at that are these 5? Are these guys who are currently competing NFR, are these future NFR hopes, of these high school students? Like, what age bracket are you working with?
So they're all 15 to 21.
Okay.
We've got one girl. It's a breakaway roper. The others, I would say, are all high school age or just getting out of high school, going into college. Like, we've got one boy that's competing more consistently, like the amateur level. Yeah. But that's kind of his goal in this deal, is to get confident enough to step more into the pro world.
But they're all of the athletes are roper-based athletes. That's cool.
Yeah. It would be, if they weren't roping, I would have to do something different there. I'm looking at other ways to do that, like to get non-endemic people, right? Like, that's what the PRCA is trying to do a lot now, is they're trying to get the non-people that are already in our world into the world of roping and stuff. And so that would be a whole nother thing, because one of the big things is being able to talk about roping and competing and that competitive mindset and all that stuff.
So how much of the focus you put on like mental development? It sounds like that, at least I would think that's got to be a huge percentage of what you're coaching through.
Yeah, it is. And I think honestly, I've let the group tell me where they want to go, because I told them, I was like, I can throw everything at you that I know, but if it's not important to you right here, right now, it's probably not going to stick.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of having 5 people is like, hey, we all really like this, let's go this route. And we have gone a lot into the mindset, and like we did a visualization the other day where I ran them through like a guided visualization, and it was amazing. Like the way they responded afterward, I let them sit down, and after we did that, I had them write everything out, like what they went through, and then we talked through it after that. And to see 5 students like sit there writing, like I felt like a teacher at the front of the classroom, like watching them. I was like, watching your guys' brains go is so
That's
cool.
Awesome.
But
so did somebody do that for you? Is that what, like, or is this something like, is this something that you're hoping to pass down in a way, or is this like something you're creating yourself? Like how?
Yeah, so I pieced it all together.
Yeah.
But I've worked with sports psychologists, I've worked with hypnotherapists, I've worked with many strength coaches.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mentioned all the guys' names of who I've lived with.
Yep.
And so I've tried to take all of that I did for 5
cool.
years and put it into one, because it's what I felt like helped me grow the most.
That's awesome.
And I just try to cut out that learning curve, right? Like they come to me, I facilitate everything else. And we've done the group calls with my strength coach, Andy, done group call with my pastor, Greg.
Awesome.
We did like one of my best friends, Dane Kissick, that I rodeoed with. So I tried to help bring everything that I use into one place, and it's just kind of there for them.
So how often right now are you personally roping? Are you competing actively, or what's your personal competition level at this point?
Yeah, so it's kind of been a long couple years getting into Texas and building that place up, and I'm a landlord at that property too. So
that has its joys and concerns, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like anything, just trying to figure out ways to make it all work.
Yeah.
We lost my mom 2 years ago, unexpectedly, and that definitely was rough on my dad and I, and it's still something we're trying to navigate.
Is your dad still in Wyoming? Or
he's in Wickenburg.
Oh, he's in Wickenburg. Okay.
Yes, sir. So 23, I didn't compete at all. Definitely didn't have the money or practice stuff to do it.
Yeah.
This last summer, I was getting geared up to go rope more and go to like Canada was my plan, and then just had some personal stuff happen that ended that. So now I'm geared back up, and I got my spots in the American for the West region and the Central region.
Awesome.
And I'm going to focus on that for the next 6 weeks until the semifinals here in Vegas. And then I'll go to Tulsa in February for the Central region finals. And then just kind of go from there with, the spring rodeos, some of the later winter rodeos.
Yeah.
But I'm not qualified into anything big.
Yeah.
So moving forward, just trying to, I feel like everything's coming together, but there's just lots of pieces to navigate.
Awesome. I mean, it's kind of fun. Like I said, we were looking you up stuff. Your face appears in a lot of different places, man. You're associated with quite a few brands.
Yes.
So it's kind of fun. You got a lot of stuff going.
Yeah, it's been, it's funny is it started with a photo shoot with Ariat when I was in college.
Oh, yeah?
And I just got
right over here.
Yeah, I just got asked by some friends to do it. And then that turned into another one and another one.
That's awesome.
And then I got with an agency, and then I got with Panhandle Rock and Roll, did their national campaigns for years. And then my
Rock
agency.
and Roll did them?
Yes, sir.
That's why you look familiar.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then my agency's gotten me great work and social media, and it's all, like you said, it's all kind of
That's cool.
come together.
Well, one thing I'd like to do as we kind of wrap up here, I want to hit you with some speed rounds questions. Just a few questions we like to do on our podcast, because we have a 22 Creedmoor, which is our caliber, kind of fast and flat. So we like to just fire you with some questions, and then I'm going to ask you at the very end, what is on your horizon? So be thinking about what you got coming up, right?
I love it.
So, speed round of questions here with Hunter. Favorite horse you've ever owned?
Gypsy. He's the bay horse I rode at the American a couple years ago.
Awesome. Horse you train or bought?
Well, Tango. He's the one I ride now a lot. I didn't train him, but he's the main one I've rode the last 2 years.
That's awesome. Favorite rope brand?
Rope brand?
Rope brand. If you got to go buy a rope, somebody's like, hey, I'm going to get into it. What am I getting?
Man, for grass ropes, I started using the Cherokees.
Okay.
I really love those. Actually, Jake was here in the booth the other day, and he's an awesome dude. He's revamping the Mike Johnson ropes into his own version, so that's really cool. Yep.
So next one I got for you here, favorite arena that you've roped in? So if you're like, man, I got to go back, I'm going to do one, I'll even take it one more level. When you're picturing, because you're talking about mental work, when you're picturing your perfect run or the best run that you've had, describe where would you go back and do that again?
Well, I'd have to say two. I mean, the best run I've ever made in my life was at AT&T Stadium. The ground's amazing. Randy Spraggins does the ground, so that was awesome. Plus, it's a football field, so it's really cool. The second one, and the one that always comes up when I visualize and stuff, is Eagle, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's one of the coolest spots right on the river, and it's just, like I said, it's easy to remember and picture. So.
That's awesome. Here, I'm going to ask you this one, then we'll go with what's on your horizon. When you're teaching your people you're mentoring with, what is, if I was to ask them, like, hey, what is one thing the hunter always tells me that they're going to stick with? Like, what is one thing that they're going to carry with them that they would have learned from you? Like, what's your favorite punchline, mantras? What are you teaching these guys?
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail. Unpack that a little bit.
Again, John Wooden, the first thing he did with his D1 basketball players when they came to UCLA, these guys are D1, right? They're already good basketball players. First thing he taught them was how to put their socks on. No wrinkles in the socks, the toes got to be right, the shoes got to fit great. Same thing with rodeo. Like, awesome. Our boots got to fit right on our horses, the cinches, the pads, the bit, the hobble, everything has to be dialed in, you know?
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Attention to detail.
Well, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions now. Best truck bed. I got to throw that one out there, right?
That Onyx Bedrock, man.
What do you like about the Onyx?
Honestly, it's the first holler bed I've ever had.
Yeah.
But I love the attention to detail. Like, it's got smoked out lights.
Yep.
I know that's something you could switch, but it's something that comes standard. And I think it just helps it stand out. The gas shocks on the doors, the way the hinges.
Dude, that's a big one on truck beds. Mm-hmm. Like I said, you don't see that in a lot of places. My dad's had a couple and stuff, and we ranch work and stuff. I think that's overlooked. But.
Yeah, that, the way the hinges shut, where they shut over the keyhole. Yep. So dirt, grime, especially if you're in a state where there's mag chloride on the highways, it's not going to get in the keyhole because that'll like seize them up.
Yep.
And then the adjustable eyebrow on it for different brands. I think that's awesome, because that's going to be something that people are going to be concerned about. Like a Dodge versus a Ford, there's a big difference in height.
Yep, absolutely. So, have you shot the 22 Creedmoor?
I haven't.
We need to make that happen.
I held one of those the other day, one of those carbon fiber socks on.
Yeah.
It was pretty light.
You're not too far from my home growing up, so we'll have to catch up and make that happen.
Go find some hogs.
So, Hunter, man, tell me, what do you got on your horizon? So what are you looking forward to? What you got in your business? What do you got in your career going that is like the thing that you're most excited about?
Well, first and foremost, I would say whatever God's got in store for me and really trusting that. That's a big one. Makes decision-making easy.
That's awesome, man.
What I would like to think is coming from that is scaling the coaching and just leaning more into like who I am and what I do. I've been kind of scattered, trying to figure things out for a long time, and now it's like all coming together. So I would think it's Faith Fitness Rodeo,
Faith Fitness Rodeo,
coaching,
man.
roping, and just helping people.
So if guys want to find you, what's your Instagram handle? Where do we tell people to go check you out, follow you?
And just my name, it's Hunter Reaume. The last name's got a lot of vowels in it, but if you look up Hunter and start typing REA, it's going to pop up.
It's going to show up,
something.
man.
Yeah.
I love it. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you being on this podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hunter Reaume, be sure and check him out, Faith Fitness Rodeo, and we'll be sure and like and subscribe below, and we'll catch you later.